Welcome to the Love Well podcast. This edition of Beyond Sunday School is called The Struggle. Before we dive in, I was originally going to spend some time this week talking about like how do I put together a sermon and all that kind of stuff. And just kind of decided it was time I was going to change tactics here a little bit, or change tracks on this week, mostly because of what I keep seeing float across my social media. So before we dive in, just want to remind everybody that the easiest way to have kind of keep up with what I'm writing, what I'm recording, all that good stuff, is to subscribe to Love Well at danielemrose.com. Real easy, drops right into your inbox. And today's video archive you can find right here at youtube.com/DanielRose. So check that out and follow me on Twitter at Daniel M. Rose. And I would love to encourage you to come and join me at Down on Tap Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock. And we are hanging out on my friend Dory's patio. It's pretty epic. Had a great conversation last night, and would really encourage you to come join me and a handful of my friends for just a great conversation that takes place each week. And so that's been a lot of fun, and hope you can join us. But this week, what are we talking about here on the Beyond Sunday School episode or installment of the Love Well podcast? The struggle, the crisis of faith. I don't know. This morning in my knee-jerk devotional that I've been writing was on Luke chapter 4, verses 1 through 13, and it's where Jesus comes. It's right after he was baptized in the Jordan, and he heads out to the wilderness. It says he's full of the Holy Spirit, and the Spirit leads him into the wilderness for 40 days of testing. He fasts for 40 days from food. We get the most obvious verse in the Bible in Luke 4, verse 2, where it says, at the end of that time, he was hungry. Really? Thanks. No doubt. But that passage, I don't know, I'm preparing to start a new conversation discussion series at our missional communities on Sunday nights out of the book of James, which opens up with, where he starts, he opens it up with talking about the purpose of struggle and hardship and all that good stuff, and how it brings about, perseverance and maturity and all of that in your faith. So all that is floating around in my head. I flipped through my social media streams this morning and last night. What I keep seeing is a lot of people talking about their crisis of faith and the struggle that's real in their faith, and it seems like there's a lot of people who are, like the assumption is that when you are struggling in your faith, that your pastor isn't equipped or doesn't care to engage you in your questions, to be a part of that struggle with you. And I guess that assumption, that mindset comes from a place of maybe historical reality, where I don't know, maybe there was a time where pastors didn't want to deal with that. Maybe there's places still to this day where pastors don't want to walk through the hard times with folks, that don't want to walk through the the struggle, the questions, the doubts that people have. Maybe it's because uh, maybe this perception of pastors exists because so many of us, so many pastors in bigger churches um, are insulated from their people, right? I mean, I live in where we live here in Metro Detroit. There's some huge churches, and uh, by and large, the lead pastors, the teaching pastors, are insulated from their congregation. They don't really interact with them. They coach and mentor other pastors, other staff people who do more of that interaction. Um, so I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why the assumption by so many, Twitter commentators or Facebook commentators or musical artists who have gone through crises of faith and come out the other side. I don't know why the assumption there is that pastors don't care, that pastors don't want to walk through the crisis of faith, that don't want to walk through the struggle. Perhaps it's because the assumption is that pastors haven't struggled. Perhaps the assumption is that pastors haven't walked through their own crises of faith over the years. I don't know. The pastors that I know, the pastors that I interact with, the pastors that I spend time with, uh, they struggle, right? Crises of faith are real, and they work through them. Me, and as they do walk through them, they come out the other side a little more ready to love well, a little more ready to care for the people in their congregations. I think they're softer, and ready to be able to say, I've been there with you. I get it. I've walked this same road. And so I think we need to be really careful about assuming that that pastors don't care, that all pastors want is to give you certainty, and that they're not going to give you room to ask questions or to doubt or to struggle through. A good pastor is more than willing to swim with you, to get into the deep end of the pool and tread water with you if that's what it takes, to help you to learn to swim in the deep end of the pool of faith. Because as we walk in faith, as we try to struggle our way through what it means to follow Jesus in this world, at some point we get to the deep end. At some point it stops being simple answers. At some point you got to look at somebody and have them ask you the hard questions. And there's going to come a point in time where you don't know. There's going to come a point in time when you are walking through the darkest part of your life that's hard and heavy, and you don't know if you're going to hold on to your faith in the midst of it. Good pastors have walked that road, and they know that road, and they know what it's like to try to hang on and try to hold on, and when they've come to the end of the rope and then find that Jesus is there at the end, just waiting for them to come to him. Oftentimes too, I think what happens is we as pastors, when we walk through these crises of faith in our own lives, it breaks us out of our self-reliance, because it's really easy as a pastor to think that you've got all the answers, and we don't. we don't have the answers. We certainly don't have all the answers. Um, we're kind of just like everybody else, where we are we're just treading water too. Um, and we desperately need people in our communities. We need people, that we can rely on, that we can trust, that we can just tread water with as well. And I think one of the images for me as a pastor, that oftentimes comes to mind is just kind of that picture of Moses with his brother and sister, and they're holding his arms up. And we need community. We need to lean into it. I think in this day and age, what happens is so many times when we start walking through doubts, when we start walking through the struggle, when we start walking through our crises of faith, we think that our communities um, don't want to engage with us on those things. We think that we're all alone in our struggles and our questions and our doubts, but we're not. We're not alone in it. And we're all honest. We doubt. We wrestle with our faith in such real and profound ways. And that doubt is a natural part of our faith. If we are really living in faith, then we're going to experience doubt, because we're going to continue to try to engage God in new ways and figure out new ways to have faith. And he's going to continue to stretch us. And in those stretching moments, we doubt. And we are not alone in that. Leaning into our community, leaning into uh, relationships with people. This is what we need to do when we doubt, when we are struggling. Our doubts are not bad things. Our doubts are good things. The struggle is good. And when we seem to think that we need to struggle alone, man, that's when it gets scary, and that's when it gets sideways. Guys, as we walk through the struggle, the crises of faith that we have, we don't need to do it alone. And as a pastor, I sincerely want to walk through this with you. I really do. I don't want you walking through a dark night of the soul, a crisis of faith, a struggle before the face of God by yourself, because you don't need to. You don't. My calling is to tread water with you in the deep end as you learn how to swim. This is the very thing that I want to be about. And I think most really good pastors live in that same space. So I don't know why I don't know why the Twitter commentators, I don't know why the musicians who have deconstructed their faith seem to think that pastors don't want to ask questions, that pastors don't want to struggle through the doubts with you. Couldn't be farther from the truth, at least in the case of this pastor. I can't think of what it would be like to walk through dark nights of the soul alone. I'm so grateful that I have such good friends that when I've doubted, when I've wrestled, when I've tried to work through these things, I'm able to do it in community. I'm able to do it with a group of friends who love me unconditionally. So, Sunday school I guess to get back to the beyond the Sunday school thing. Um, Sunday school oftentimes is kind of this place where we're just looking for pat answers. When we go beyond Sunday school, when we go deeper into our faith, um, we find ourselves with Peter as he got out of the boat and on the stormy sea. Sometimes it just takes one step, and the good thing is when we start to drown, because we probably will, Jesus is there to pull us up, and He's going to be there to pull us up through and by His community, with other people. So don't go it alone, guys. As you walk through this crisis, your crises of faith, as you walk through your struggles, don't go it alone. Walk through it with people. Invite others in. If you need someone to walk through it with you, I'm here. Let me know. Send me a message. Connect with me. I would be happy to walk through your dark night with you, because we all need somebody to walk through those times, those moments with us. So I don't know. That was a little bit short one this week on Beyond Sunday School, but it was just something that's been floating around in my head and my heart over the last 24 hours. And so next week we'll get back to we'll try to get back to some of the Bible stuff. And what would be really helpful for me is I try to walk through these Beyond Sunday School things is to have your questions. Please send me questions that you have about the Bible, and let's walk through them together here on Wednesdays in Beyond Sunday School. And because I think as we do that, we figure out how to love well. We figure out how to love each other better, how to love God better, and how to love ourselves a little better too. All right. Thanks for being with me this week. And until next week, love well, my friends.